Okay. So, this is for the ethics, ano. So, doon sa klase ko na Monday, Tuesdays, 11:30 to 1, and doon sa Friday, although na-discuss ko na to sa Friday ng 2:30 to 5:30, no? So, this is just a review lang. And for those Monday and Tuesday na 11:30 to 1, ito yung topic natin ngayon, no? So, Immanuel Kant. Siya ngayon kasi, we will be talking about um, morality and of course yung rights theory ni Immanuel Kant. So ipapag-usapan natin yan for today, no? So this is just an online class since we're suffering from COVID-19, and my advice, just please stay inside your house, watch this video, and I'm going to upload this sa YouTube, okay? So Immanuel Kant, he's from 1724 to 1804, no? He is a German thinker regarded by many as most of the significant philosopher in the modern era. So kasama niya sila Thomas Hobbes, no? Yung mga ganon. So isa sa kanyang mga major contribution sa ethics, yung makikita yan sa kanyang work na The Foundations of Metaphysics of Moral and the Critique of Practical Reasons. So yun yung doon makikita yung kanyang mga works, no? Okay. So let's talk about Kantian ethics. So, Kant categorically rejects that the ethical judgments are based on the feelings. No? Para sa based daw dun sa feelings, no? For him, feelings even serve as obstructions to our discernment of right and wrong. Now, his ethical theory instead bases on moral judgment. So, binase niya yung kanyang ethical theory sa moral judgment on base sa reason, no? So para sa kanya, ang reason is what deems an action to ethical or otherwise. Okay, next slide tayo. So goodwill. So he believed that when we wish to determine the moral status of an action, we consult reason. So bali, bago tayo kasi minsan gumawa ng action or yung base natin yung moral status natin sa actions natin, we will consult with reason. So an act either accords with reason or it does not. So if it accords with reason, we must do it. If not, we must avoid it. So yun. Okay, next slide. So Kant believed that one of the functions and capabilities of our reason is to produce a will which is good and not as a means to some further end, no? But good in itself for him, it is the good will which is good, the good and the conditions of all other goods. Okay, so he teaches that only goodwill is intrinsically good. That is, it is the only thing that which is good without qualification. Okay. Ayon din sa kanya, hindi siya nag-agree sa ibang ethicists, no, na yung happiness is a summum bonum. Remember summum bonum? It is with Aristotle. So, or the highest good. So, para sa kanya, happiness can be corrupting. Oh, medyo ano. And maybe worthless. No? Or even positively evil when not combined with goodwill. Yun nga lang. No? In the same way, intellectual eminence, talent, characters, self-control, fortune, it cannot be intrinsically good, for they can be used to bad ends. Talents, bad ends. Kung minsan pwede. Okay. So, a good will is one that habitually wills rightly. And it is not what goodwill achieves, no? That constitutes its goodness. Even if it is good will, because it's some of the hindrances accomplish nothing. Wala, as in zero, nada. No? So, It remains to be good on something with full value in itself. Goodwill is good itself. O, yun eh. Okay. But who is a good person? Sino ngayon ang mabuting tao? Or a person of goodwill? Para sa kay Kant, no, it is the person who acts from the sense of duty. No, so sa paniniwala kasi niya, acting from the sense of duty means exhibiting goodwill even in the face of difficulty. So with he has this what we call it na yung sense of duty, no? Okay. For an act to be moral, sabi nga niya, it is a requisite that it be an act of a free agent. That is, it must be a voluntary action. Voluntary, no? Not a forced or a compelled one. So, kusang loob, ika nga, no? In addition, however, it must be an act done not from the inclination, but from a sense of duty. So, kumbaga, instinct na rin kung minsan eh, no? Yun yun. So, it is dedicated also, or dictated also, by reason. Okay. So, when you say inclination naman, it refers to the feeling that pushes us to select a particular option or make a particular decision. It is our liking or tendency to do, favor, or want something. So, a duty or obligation o yung obligasyon, on the other hand, is what which we ought to do despite our inclinations or taste or otherwise. So, lahat naman tayo may obligasyon naman tayo na gumawa na mabuti. 'Di ba? So, yun yung isa sa mga natin. Now, normally, no, yung mga people uh, people perform that the acts which please them, no? Para sa kanila yung kagustuhan, no? Or which they desire to do in particular circumstances. Kasi what we have is what we call it free will. Kasi lahat tayo may kalayaan tayong gawin ang gusto natin, no? So for Kant, these actions determined by wishes, passions, appetites, desires, and the like have no moral worth. So, ayun nga, ayon sa kanya paniniwala, we can act or we act morally only if we restrain our feelings, feelings na naman, and inclinations, and do that which we are obliged to do. So, as for Kant, yung morality, it essentially connected with, mali yung spelling, sorry, so duties and obligations. Okay. There is, however, a need to make distinction between acts done from the motive of duty and those that are in accordance with duty. So, yung isa kasi may motibo or merong sabihin natin hinihintay na something, no? Hindi yung kusang loob. Kasi yung in accordance with duty, ito yung parang kusang loob eh, no? The former are moral acts unlike the latter. So, respecting one's parent, for example, for expediency or solely in obedience to customs. No? Kumbaga parang ganito, no? Parang let's say since walang pasok, 'di ba? So gagawin mo ngayon dahil walang pasok, syempre utusan ka sa bahay. Hindi yung parati ka nasa kwarto and then wala lang kasi hinihintay mo na no? So dapat ika nga may kusang loob, no? So, ito, paying one's debt for fear of being sued. Ito, no? Yung bang magbabayad ng utang sa takot na baka makasuhan ka. Usong-uso pa naman yan. Yung, minsan, yung kaso, napupunta pa nga sa mga korte, ano, dahil sa simpleng utang lang. Helping others because it's pleasing to do so. So, yung bang tinutulungan mo yung iba kasi it is pleasing, no? Taking care of one's children because one is so fond of doing so. ito yung pinaka mas nakakaano, no? Displaying honesty to receive an award. Yan. Pare nagpapaka-honest, honest daw kuno, pero mamaya niyan para lang ano, may makuhang award. Or keeping a promise by accident are all examples of acts that are in accordance with duty and not from duty. Now, speaking of promises, no? Ika nga, sabi nga nila, promises are made to be broken. Kaya, ang advice ko lang, kung mangako ka, tuparin mo. Ya? Kaso ngayon, sabihin natin na may plano kayong gumala, nangako kang gagala kayo. Harbor, for example. Pasensya na po, sorry, close. Lockdown niya na Subic. So, hindi ka pwede makapasok. So, dyan lang kayo sa bahay. Pwede naman kayong kaso, bawal din lumabas. No? Yun nga lang. Okay. Now, isa sa kanya mga principle ay ang tinatawag nating fundamental principle, which is the categorical imperative. Now, Kant holds that the fundamental principle of our moral duties is categorical imperative. Now, it is an imperative because it is a command that addresses to agents who could follow it but might not, for example, leave the gun, take the cannoli. It is categorical in virtue of applying to us unconditionally or simply because we possess rational wills without reference to any ends that we might or might not have. No? It does not, in other words, apply to us on the conditions that we antecedently adopted some goals for ourselves. So, yung hypothetical imperative, it is a command that also applies to us in a virtue of our having a rational will. But not simply in virtue of this, it requires us to exercise our wills in a certain way given that we have antecedently willed an end. So, a hypothetical imperative is thus a command in a conditional form. So, but not any command in a form that counts as hypothetical imperative in Kant's sense. So, for example, now for instance, yung kantang If You're Happy and You Know It, Clap Your Hands. It is a conditional command. No? Sorry, pero di ako marunong kumanta. So, if the hypothetical imperative states that if you want to attain to certain end in such and such a way, the categorical imperative, on the other hand, pronounces that no matter what end you desire to attain, act in such and such a way. Clearly, it commands a person to act in a particular way regardless of what goals one look for or what one's end may be. So, Kant provides various formulations of the categorical imperative. The most famous is the Universalizability. Medyo mahirap din bigkasin. So, formulation which states na act only on that maxim through which you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. So in other words, a person ought to become a universal code of behavior. No? Hence, in a considering to act in a particular manner, a person must ask himself how would this action appear if it were to become a universal rule. Can reason will it to become a general rule for rational agents to follow? Yan eh. So, as an illustration, Kant takes the case of a lying promise. Yan. A person having run out of money may be tempted to borrow from someone, though knowing for sure that he will be incapable to pay it back. He is thus acting on how the maxim, when in need of money, borrow from someone by making a lying promise. Ayan. So, Lying promise is one of the best example here, no? Sabihin natin, kasi minsan, kaya nga, di ba, sinabi ko na kung nangako ka, tuparin mo. Kasi mahirap din naman kung nangako ka tapos hindi mo tinupad, ano yun, drawing na. Aasa syempre sa yung tao. So, talaga magmumukha kang sinungaling yan. Okay. Another famous formulation of the categorical imperative is the end in itself, no? Which states, so act as to use humanity both in your own person and in the person of every other. Now, always at the same time as an end. Now, never simply as a means, and this rendition teaches us, among other things, to respect persons as ends in themselves and not only as means or instruments to further self-interest. So this involves acknowledging the person as a rational being with goals and treating him with dignity. So many of us have read and understood Kant's ethical system, find it sensible and plausible. Now, in fact, when we try to prove that one's particular action is unethical and ask him, what if everybody behave as you do? Minsan setting by example. So, we are actually advocating Kant's universalizability, formulation of the categorical imperative. So, from his doctrine of categorical imperative, Kant developed uncompromising prescription against some actions. He submits that some actions, like lying, are wrong regardless of the circumstances and the outcome they generate. This notion is prone to many criticisms. Critics argue that if lying is the only way to safeguard from sure danger another person, then lying is what must do. For instance, no, if a murderer armed with shotgun comes looking for a family member or a friend to kill her, should we reveal her whereabouts merely because we ought to tell the truth? Parang gano'n, no? So, parang ganito. Example lang natin, ha? So, example. What if? What if lang, okay? Dumating yung ex ng boyfriend o girlfriend mo na may dalang M16 or shotgun or Armalite o kung ano man yan, siguro kahit basuka, tapos kumatok sa harapan mo o sa pintuan nyo, tapos hinanap yung boyfriend o girlfriend mo. Dahil, according sa kanya, gusto na niyang patayin yung ex niya dahil niloko or something ganon. So, ano ngayon ang gagawin mo? Sasabihin mo ba yung totoo? Risking the life of your boyfriend or girlfriend or friend, or maybe lie? Now, if you lie, then of course, syempre, ang tao biglang hindi yan maniniwala agad-agad. Syempre, pagka narinig niya, or nung friend mo, or nung boyfriend or girlfriend mo, yung usapan ninyo, syempre, agad niya sisilip. And then of course, what will happen? Mamamatay din kung sinabi mo rin yung nagsinungaling ka. Now, what if kung sinabi mo yung totoo, he will have a time to escape, no? Syempre, susugod yun, papasok yun sa loob, hahanapin. So, yung friend mo naman, o yung boyfriend or girlfriend mo, will have to escape as soon as possible. Okay. So, in proposing that we must always do our duties, no matter what circumstances are, Kant's view is deemed by some as rule-bound moral philosophy that puts a premium on rules rather than on humans. We may suggest that human obligations, say keeping promises, telling the truth, and repaying debts, should be really kept, but provided that no other overriding factors exist. Ethical rules, some propose, are better construed as generalizations rather than categorical commands without any exceptions. So another shortcoming of Kant's ethics is lack of solutions to instances where there is conflicts of duties. Kasi minsan wala talaga solution. No? So suppose a person promises to keep a secret and then another person asks about it. He cannot tell the truth without breaking his promise. But Kantian ethics flexibly demands that he ought to be both always and in all circumstances, which in this case is logically impossible. So as regards motive and consequences, Kant definitely favors the former as having moral worth, regardless of the consequences, and an act is moral if the motive is was to act from the good and out of respect of duty. So with good intentions, a medical doctor who operated on a sick person and accidentally kill him in the process is not considered immoral. Hindi naman niya siguro sinasadya yun na mamatay yung pasyente, di ba? So hindi naman natin pwede sabihin na immoral yon. Pero we may call him incompetent, careless, lousy, and the like, but not unethical. Siguro, maybe irresponsible, careless, kaya medyo nagkamali lang siguro, or ganyan. Hindi natin alam. So notice, though, that in completely disregarding the consequences in moral evaluation of actions, Kant appears inconsistent. Remember that his complete ban on lying is based on the possible effects should lying become a universal law. So, kung nagsinungaling ka man, hindi pwede na rin magsinungaling lahat. It may be possible na hindi siya pwede maging universal law. So that is, there would be no promises at all. Clearly, Kant here is referring to the consequences of lying. So concerning enjoyment in doing virtuous acts, Kant's theory differs that of Aristotle. So magkaiba sila ni Aristotle. For Aristotle, for example, genuinely virtuous person totally enjoys carrying out moral acts. But for Kant, okay, a moral act involves being contrary to somebody's feelings, no? Natural inclinations and wishes. In fact, the distress of well-doing is even considered by Kant as a sign of virtue. So, indeed, Kant completely removes one's taste of emotion, liking and the like in the sphere of morality. So concerning this, we may argue nonetheless that there are situations in which our feelings, no, yung feelings natin and likings are relevant to the rightness of our decisions and actions. No? In selecting the course to take, minsan, a job to assume, and especially a person to marry. So minsan, choose wisely when it comes to decisions. Yun din ang pinopoint dito, no? Like, selecting a course. Ang tanong, yan ba talaga yung napili ninyo? O napili na magulang nyo? O napuwersa lang kayo? So, parang ganon. So, it's up to your decisions. Now, a job to assume. Pwede rin, minsan, sa trabaho. Kung yan na ba talaga, stable ka na ba dyan? Or something yung ganon. And especially a person to marry. Yan, bahala na kayo dyan. So, we wonder how one's decision can be right without considering our taste and preference. So, moreover, Kant's theory would go against Christian philosophy's emphasis on love. No? For love is basically a strong liking or desire. Applied religiously, Kant's stance seems to go against the biblical decree to worship and serve God with a joyful heart. So, in general, however, Kant contributes much to the study of morality. It affirms our consciousness of the moral law, inherent to our practical reasons. Kant defines human dignity as resting on the attainment of moral character. And thus, not on things like progress in scientific advances, his categorical imperative supports the democratic notion that all people are created equal, from which we can derive that discrimination is not good, especially before the law. Moreover, his categorical imperative forbids us to behave in an inconsistent and hypocritical manner. Okay, so next is rights theory. Na dito medyo po very right ang yan natin kasi this talks about sometimes politics, no, or human rights as they say. Nito nga isang araw natawa na nga lang kasi ako sa post, no, kasi may nag-post, ni-repost ko nga siya eh. So ano daw bang mas uunahin, human rights o yung buhay ng tao? Tignan natin. So sa batas, no, sa law, pinopose ni Immanuel Kant ng yung principles ng rights o yung karapatan. Now, he saw a distinctive correlations, yet differences, magkaiba rin, between the intent of the law and the enforcement of the law. Yung iba yung intensyon at iba yung enforcement sa batas. Okay? So for Kant, governments were entrusted with the capacity to create laws by the citizens they govern in exchange for protection. Mamaya na yan. So thus, governments have no right to disrupt that trust by making laws with cruel intent against the freedom that citizens have been promised. So, minsan kasi, binibigyan tayo ng karapatan or rights and also kalayaan or yung freedom, no, na pinapangako sa atin ng gobyerno. Now, the principles of rights theory is the notion that in order for a society to be efficacious, government must approach the making and enforcement of laws. So, alam naman natin, no, sa government kasi, may tatlong branches tayo sa government, no? We have the executive, which is composed of the president, the vice president, and the cabinet members. You have the legislative, composed of the Senate and the Congress, and you have the judiciary, which is composed of the Supreme Court and the lower courts, no? So, yun yung tatlong branches ng government natin, no? So, members of the society agreed to give up some of the freedom for the protection enjoyed by organized society. But governments cannot infringe upon rights that citizens have been promised. So, hindi pwedeng gipitin ng gobyerno yung karapatan pang tao na ipinangako nila sa taong bayan. Okay. When applied to war, sa gera, rights theory states that in order for a war to be deemed morally justifiable, the intention of entering into a war ought to be right in the relation to human rights. Now, okay, PhilCon 101, Philippine Constitution 101. Article 1, kung makikita natin, ang isa sa mga ano kasi natin, no, sa saligang batas is that we cannot declare war, no, unless approved by the Congress. Hindi pwedeng mag-declare ng gera ang mismong presidente. Admin. So, yun, hindi pwedeng mag-declare ng gera basta-basta si presidente unless kung pumayag at binoto ng Kongreso. No? And isa pa kasi, ang stance kasi ng Pilipinas when it comes to war, kapag ginipit lang tayo or inargabyado tayo, doon lang tayo magre-respond. No? Let's say, ginipit tayo. Not exactly like China will declare war on us, no? Pero hindi naman, wag naman natin sabihin na gano'n. Now, for example lang, no, may sinugod tayo or pinaulanan tayo ng missile, no? Saka lang tayo magre-respond in defense, no? No? Hindi tayo pwedeng mag-retaliate agad na, ay, tinira tayo ng missile. So, kailangan natin sumugod, girahin na natin. Hindi ganon. So, in order for us to be morally justifiable in declaring war, we should know kung ano ba talaga yung nangyari. Like for example, we will declare war in our defense, protect the country. Okay. Syempre, when it comes to war, the country or the government has the right to call the people to sign and of course defend the country. Okay, at defend the country at all cost, no? So, yung mga takot sa gera, minsan wala rin tayong choice. Kaya kung tinawag man tayo ng gobyerno na protektahan yung ating bansa laban sa mga mananakop, kailangan natin gawin. It's our moral responsibility, no? Ano nga hindi mo gawin? So, Kant's principle of rights theory thus teaches us that is not merely the outcome of actions that is significant, but also the reasoning behind them. Now, because if the intent is evil, then the outcome in a likelihood is bad as well. Okay, right-based theory. Now, rights-based theory is a broad moral theory in which Kant's principle of rights is included. Now, the concept of rights-based ethics is that there are some rights, both positive and negative, that all humans have based only on the fact that they are humans. Now, these rights can be natural and or conventional. Now, that is, natural rights are those that are moral, while conventional are those created by humans and reflect society's values. So, yung natural law, natural rights, it is inherent na, no? While yung conventional rights, ginawa na lang ng tao yan. Okay. Now, examples of right-based theory ethics system includes the following. Now, as you can see here, dito sa ating slide na to, most of them can be found not just in our own Philippine Constitution, but also in the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights and yung iba pang mga rights, not just only the UN, but also you can find them anywhere around the world. Kasi this is basic and at the same time, it can be found anywhere. Okay, isa-isahin natin. Marami kasi ito eh. So, first, the right to life. Yan, yung sa naalala ko yung ni-repost ko kagabi, no? Isang araw. Of course, Article 1 nga sinasabi na you have no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property. Now, in that case kasi, a person has the right to live. Now, the government say na you should stay home kasi it's because of the virus. Okay. Okay. Wait a second. Merong technical problem. Okay. So, right to life. No? Yun nga. And, kung makikita natin, no? When you say right to life, karapatan natin mabuhay. Pangalawa, yun nga, right to liberty. May kalayaan tayo, no? We are right to be free. Okay. Letter C, the right to pursue happiness. Karapatan din ng tao maging masaya. No? Okay. The right to a jury trial. Although sa atin kasi we don't have a jury system, but in other places such as the United States, they do that, no? Okay. Letter E, the right to have a lawyer or the right to a lawyer. Now, universally speaking, we have this what we call the Miranda Doctrine. No? Let's say, for example, you got arrested. And then, the police officer might tell you this. No? They are basic lang. No? For example, makikita rin dito is that you have the right to remain silent. No? Pangalawa, You have the right to have counsel or a lawyer. Now, whatever you say will be used against you. Yun ay mga Miranda Doctrine or Miranda Rights. No? So, you have the right to have a lawyer or counsel. Okay, letter F, you have the right to freely practice religion. Okay, sa ating sa bawat constitution sa bawat bansa, we have this, no? Freedom of religion. So everyone can practice their own religion. No, kaya lang kasi minsan nagkakaroon lang tayo ng discrimination. Hindi porke atheist yung isang tao i-criticize na, hindi porke INC yung isang tao i-criticize na. No, kasi that is how they worship. And that is how they practice their religion. So, and in other case, it's not just practice religion but also establish religion. Like for example, kay Kibuloy. Sabihin natin ganun. That is his right to build his own religion. Although, hindi nga lang niya mapa-stop yung virus. Diba? Virus stop. Hindi niya pwede ma-stop yun. So, okay. The right to express ideas or opinions with freedom as an individual. So, dito papasok yung natin, no? Hindi naman siya freedom of speech kasi ano siya, sa speech yun. Freedom of expression, yun. That is the correct way. Now, we have the right to express ideas. No? Kanya-kanyang ano yan, kanya-kanyang idea yan. No? And as an individual also. The right of individuals or organization to express opinions and share their information freely in written medium. So, yun yan, no? Freedom of expression, freedom of di ba? So, letter I. The right to come together and meet in order to achieve goals. So, freedom of assembly, yan. Hindi porke nagrarally, di ibig sabihin nun, wala na silang karapatan mag-rally. Well, ayon sa ating constitution, may karapatan naman sila. Yun nga lang kasi, mali naman na yung kanilang, although may karapatan silang sabihin kung anong gusto nila, pero minsan talaga mali rin eh. Okay. The right to be informed of what law has been broken or if arrested. So, balikan ko ulit yung Miranda Doctrine, no? Sasabihin din sa iyo kung ano yung klase ng kaso na nalabag mo or violation na nalabag mo. And isa pa, we have this what we call search mga warrants, no? Let's say search warrant and warrant of arrest. Now, hindi pwedeng mag-issue niyan ang mga police or mga law enforcement. The only way para ma-issue yung mga warrants is through the courts itself. Now, the right to call witnesses to speak on one's behalf if accused of a crime. So, you have the right to produce witnesses to speak in favor of you or sometimes maybe against you. Or the right of a person to be treated with equal respect and dignity even after being found guilty of a crime. Respeto, no? Trato at respeto lang at bigyan dignidad kung sakali man naging guilty. Okay. The right to freely live and travel within the country. Okay, you have the right to freedom of abode and of course kung saan mo gusto tumira, no? Kaso nga lang ngayon, syempre, with the, extensive or intensive, community-based quarantine, hindi ka pwedeng lumabas or mag-travel within the country kasi lockdown talaga ngayon. Okay, right to work. Karapatan mo magtrabaho. Karapatan magtrabaho. Okay. You have the right to work. Kaya lang kasi, sometimes, no, medyo nagpapahirap lang kasi yung may mga requirements. Although, kailangan naman talaga requirements, minsan talaga kasi, minsan hindi ma-achieve lang, no? Okay. Right to marry. Pass. Hindi ko na alam yan. Okay. Oops. The right to bear children. Okay? Para sa mga may asawa, sige, go lang. Pero yung hanggang kaya lang ha. Okay. The right to free education. Of course, we are privileged na rin na that our school is the tuition is free, and of course, the education should also be free. Now, the right to join any peaceful parties or groups of choice. Kagaya rin ng freedom of assembly, you have the right to choose na kung saan man gusto mo sumama. Now, the right to be free from slavery. Now, this might not be applied here in the Philippines, but in other countries, it is applied. No? Okay. The right not to be tortured. Isa rin yan sa mga natin, no? If you scan through our Philippine Constitution, particularly Article 3, isa na dito yung bawal ang torture. No? Although kasi minsan pahirap. Ito yung ginagawa na paraan para lang umamin din minsan yung mga kriminal. Although, it is pinagbabawal na talaga. Now, the right to be treated as equal to others. Equality. Now, some would argue nga na, okay, equality. Now, remember yung nag-viral dun sa Facebook na yung babae ba yun? If I'm not mistaken. Na nag-post sa Facebook kasi hindi daw siya pinagbigyan ng upuan. Well, for some instance kasi, the guy defended himself na he was too tired and he wants to sit. Nakalimutan na siguro. So, yung babae nagrant kasi nga daw, nasan na equality, ganyan. Hindi na daw gentleman ngayon kasi puro ganyan lang. Now, the point here is, when you say equality, it's not just that, no? When you say equality kasi, it is fair for both male and female as equals. No? Okay. The right to be considered innocent until proven guilty. Now, sa Pilipinas kasi, although, natin hindi, medyo yung justice system natin is medyo ano pa rin, pero no, makikita natin, dapat, sa korte kasi, if you are a criminal, you are deemed innocent, no? Until when the evidence comes around, you will be considered guilty if the evidence against you is heavy. Now, the right to personal privacy. Now, dito sa atin, we have already implemented several things with regards to privacy. Una dyan, of course, is your personal spaces, no? Hindi ka pwedeng lumapit sa isang bagay not unless you are told to do so. That is what you call invasion of privacy. Now, with regards naman to the data. Now, kaya nga meron tayong Data Privacy Act na hindi mo pwedeng ilabas or i-release yung mga sensitive data like say for example yung mga bank account numbers, especially yung and like for example some mga teachers yung grades publicly. No? Pero another thing with regards to privacy is this. Now, see, I know most of you guys are mahilig mag-screenshots. Now, did you know that in every screenshot, you are already violating the invasion of privacy? Kasi, what have you been talking there, kung ano man yung napapag-usapan nyo doon, at na-screenshot man, o kung sino man dyan, lalabas dito, in-screenshot mo at pinost mo na walang pahintulot, yun yung conversation. That is already a violation of invasion of privacy. Okay. You have also the right to own property. Siyempre, lahat naman, no, not unless if you're an adult, you have the right to own a property. So, legal and moral rights. Now, what is legal is not always moral. And sometimes what is moral is not necessarily legal in a particular country. Now, this principle proves, among other things, that being moral and being legal may be practically related, but one and the same. So some explains the difference between legal and moral to the difference between is and ought. Now that is, moral rights refer to what ought to be, whereas legal rights are the rights that on the books. Now moral rights represents the natural law, and legal rights embodies the conventional positive law. So when you say legal rights, it denotes all the rights found within existing legal codes. As such, they enjoy recognition and the protection of the law. Sa Constitution, we have what we call equal protection of the law. So, questions as to their existence can be resolved by just locating the pertinent legal instruments or piece of legislation. Now, technically, a legal right does not exist prior to this passing into law, and the limits of its validity are set by the jurisdiction of the legal body which passed its legislation. An example of a legal right would be the right of an Englishman, for example lang ha, Englishman's daughter, to receive an adequate education as enshrined within the United Kingdom's Educational Act of 1944. Now, yung exercise ng right, yung karapatan na yon ay limited lang sa UK, no? Kasi doon lang kasi yon in-implement. Not, that she has no legal right, no? Wala siyang karapatan na legal na makareceive ng same education, say, for example, a school board in Southern California or sa SoCal, no? Kasi magkaiba naman kasi sila eh. Siguro magkaiba lang naman yung, although we have the right to access in the education, kaya lang kasi magkaiba naman siguro yung rule sa US at sa UK. So, legal rights are clearly rights which exist under the rules of legal systems or by virtue of decisions of suitably authoritative bodies within them. They raise a number of different philosophical issues. Una, whether legal rights are conceptually related to other types of rights, principally moral rights. What the analysis of the concept of a legal right is and what kinds of entities can be legal right holders. Whether there are any kinds of right which are exclusive to or at least have a much greater importance in legal system as opposed to morality. Now, what right legal systems ought to create or recognize? Okay, moral rights. So, moral rights in plain contrast are the rights that exist prior to or independently from their legal counterparts. Now, the existence and validity of moral rights is not deemed to be dependent upon the actions of jurists and legislators. Human rights per se. No? So, for instance, many people argue that a black majority in the apartheid South Africa had moral rights to full political participation in that country's political system. Although there existed no such legal right. Okay, what many found so ethically objectionable about the apartheid South Africa was its denial to the majority of that country's inhabitants of many fundamental moral rights, such as the rights not to be discriminated against on the grounds of color and the rights to political participation. Now, the specific line of opposition and protest could only be pursued because of the beliefs in the existence and validity of moral rights, with or without recognition of a legal system. So, it must be clear, no, that human rights cannot be reduced to or exclusively identified with legal rights. Now, in fact, some human rights are best identified as moral rights. Human rights are meant to apply to all human beings universally, regardless of whether or not most they have attained legal recognition by all countries everywhere. So human rights are best thought of as being both moral and legal rights. The legitimacy of human rights are connected to their status as moral rights. Nonetheless, the practical efficacy of human rights is essentially dependent upon their developing into legal rights. So ito, human rights versus legal rights versus moral rights. When you say human rights, it is universal rights and any human beings can enjoy. It is universal in its natural rights and no exact punishment unless legalized as legal rights. So legal rights, rights are accorded with according to the ethics or moral codes. Differ from person to person depending on their age, nationality, country, and etc. Of course, when you say legal rights, it is given by the government and its punishment and penalties for violation. So the rights formulated by the state or government for the privilege of its citizens, it is universal. This is moral rights. So natural rights and no exact punishment unless legalized as legal rights. Now, for this may be ano no, related. Now, let me discuss or share with you the United Nations Universal Declaration on Human Rights. Now, yung kaninang diniscuss ko, yung mga rights na nakita ninyo, now it is part also of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now, let me give you a little background. Now, as you can see on the right, the left, yung picture dito, which is ito, um, it is the official document of the UDHR, no? So the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is a milestone document in the history of human rights. Ito, this one. Yan. No? So drafted and by representatives with different legal and cultural backgrounds from all regions of the world. Now, the declaration was proclaimed by the United Nations General Assembly in Paris on December 10, 1948. This is right after the war. Pero in case you just know, the United Nations was formally organized during 1940s, especially during the war period, the World War II period. Now, so the declaration was proclaimed by the United Nations the General Assembly nga sa Paris noong December 10, 1948 as General Assembly Resolution 217A as a common standard of achievement for all the peoples and all the nations. It sets out for the first time, no, fundamental rights to be universally protected, and it has been translated into over 500 languages. Now, another right that I'm going to share with you is, of course, kung meron sa human, as in sa mga adults, meron din sa mga bata. Now, the United Nations Convention of the Rights of a Child, or commonly abbreviated as CRC or UNCRC, now is a human rights treaty which sets out civil, political, economic, social, health, and cultural rights of children. Ngayon, the convention defines a child as any human beings under the age of 18. So, meaning that is 17 below. That is already a child. Unless the age of majority is attained earlier under the national legislation. So nations that ratify these conventions are bound to it by international law. Compliance is monitored by the UN Committee on the Rights of a Child, which is composed of members from countries around the world. Once a year, the committee submits a report to the Third Committee of the United Nations General Assembly, which also hears the statement from the CRC chair. And the Assembly adopts a resolution on the rights of the child. So that concludes our discussions for today. And if you had any questions, just drop it on the comments below. And of course, click subscribe. Okay? So, thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next topic.